Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and it's time for your weekly wrap-up, and I want to begin first, as we always do, by thanking our newest Patreon supporters, and I want to start with Mark Bollinger, who is in gold, and the reason is that Mark is our newest gold level supporter, so I want to thank him for his support. You'll be hearing his name over and over and over again when we roll the Patreon credits over next month, so thank you, Mark. Edgar Tercy, I also want to thank, as well as Chad Dirks, Mark Stevens, and Reed Love, who upgraded his Patreon support, and then we had two Super Chat contributors when I was doing a random live stream last week. I'll probably do another one this week, not sure what day yet. Aggressive Fun and Robert Spangle. So I want to thank all of you who contributed to the channel this month, as well as everyone who has been contributing on a regular basis and everyone who watches also, because the channel continues to grow and it's because of all of your support, both through your eyeballs and your contributions. I want to thank you all for that, and I'm really enjoying doing this full time. So what did we do last week? Well, we got a lot done on the Extras channel, a bunch of unboxings, the Blue Life 1 X2 mobile phone, the Cerevo Live Shell. We did a sample of its recording capabilities. The Shuttle DX30 mini PC was unboxed and taken apart. The Mission 1 Endless OS mini PC that is clad in bamboo wood was unboxed. We're going to be reviewing that later in the week. And then we also unboxed that Live Shell. This week on the main channel, we did a bunch of reviews, had a pretty productive week. The Techlast X22 all-in-one PC, which is a Braswell-based machine, but in a very small all-in-one form factor. So it doesn't look like anything more than a monitor, but it actually has a computer inside. My biggest gripe with it is that you can't plug in an HDMI input into it and use it like a monitor. I think that would have been a killer feature if you could have your monitor be like a little server, but alas, it is not capable of doing that. But I did take it apart in a follow-up video. There was a lot of viewer interest in this product, so glad you all got some more information on that. And we did a full review of that Cerevo Live Shell X that we unboxed and tested on the Extras channel. This is a pretty cool device because not only can it be a recorder, but it can also stream out to 3 different services at the same time. So if you're recording on it, you can record on one channel and then broadcast out on the other 2, or you can use all 3 channels that it has to send things out to 3 different services. So in the review that I did, I was able to broadcast to YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook all at the same time and at different resolutions. So you can really tweak things very finely to get maybe a better quality image out to one service and then something that's passable to another. It all does it inside of its little box here, scaling and adjusting bitrate as you go. And if you are getting serious about live streaming, I definitely recommend getting a box like this, maybe like this one or a Teradek Video or something, because they are designed to stream and nothing else. Your computer sometimes has background software that might be acting up, an update might come through while you're in the middle of streaming. It gets unpredictable sometimes when you rely on a computer to stream, but these little boxes, in my experience, have been very, very good for reliability, and I was quite pleased with all the flexibility that this one offered, although it's not a cheap device. I think it was like around $800 or so. You can check out all the things that I reviewed this week down below in the master playlist in the video description. We also got to look at the Blue Life 1 X2 Mini. This is a sub $200 Android phone. Not the fastest thing in the world, but it's usable, which is often a good thing when you just want a phone that works, maybe an extra phone or a phone for a family member or something. It really works quite well. I was pretty pleased with how well that came together in a nice smaller form factor as well with it, with a 5-inch screen. And we got to look at the Shuttle DX30, a very rugged, fanless, completely solid-state device. If you pop an SSD in there, it is sold as a bare-bones kit with a dual-core Apollo Lake chip. It actually works pretty well as a home theater box as well, and you can check out that review also in the master playlist below. And now it's time for some things that are on my mind, and we are now in week 2 of my full-time venture here as a content creator, and so far so good. It's been really fun, actually, just to have time to, first of all, sleep at night, which has been helpful. So generally, I've been getting my work done and having dinner, and then sometimes I'm editing to upload that night's video, but a couple of days last week, I was able to get everything done before dinner time, which was so wonderful. It was like just nice to be able to end the workday and then spend time with the family without having to do more work after the kids went to bed. So that is a goal that I am shooting for. I'm also beginning to inventory all the different things that I think would be best done by some part-time help here on the channel. I need somebody here. I know a lot of you wrote in wanting to help, and I'd love to be able to have more people remotely help, but I really need somebody in this room with me over the course of the day to get PCs prepped for review, get products ready, do some light editing work, all that kind of stuff that just doesn't lend itself well to off-site help. So I'm going to be coming up with a list of things that I want that person to do, and then getting all my prep work done to bring get the hiring process going. It's not easy to hire people in any state in this country, or this country for that matter. There's a lot of things you got to make sure you have done properly with the IRS IRS, the local tax authorities, the insurance and everything else. So I've got most of that taken care of, but I want to make sure that is all squared away. So I'll be working on that and then coming up with some things for that person to do, because the last thing I want to do is hire somebody before I'm ready for them. So I think by next week or the week after, I'm going to have a very good idea as to how this part-time person will help. And if you're curious how we're going to pay for that part-time person, that is what I've been setting aside the Patreon and Super Chat and Tip Jar funds for, is to fund that person, because I don't want you guys buying gear for this channel or gear that I review. I really want to have that money focused on developing the channel, developing the thing that you all love. So that is where those dollars will be going over the next couple of months once we get everything organized and ready for that person to begin, and then we'll go on from there. But it was a great second week, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the third week brings. What's nice this week is that I did spend most of today actually testifying up at the state capitol for some Board of Education stuff. As many of you know, I'm on my local Board of Ed, so that knocked out today. But tomorrow through Friday, I have a full 8 to 10 hours, 12 hours maybe down here in the studio to get work done. So I'm hoping to bring you more content throughout the course of the week. So stay tuned for more. And again, thank you all for your support, because that is what made all of this possible. And speaking of crowdfunding, I got a couple of lovely notes from two crowdfunding campaigns that went kaput and took my money with them. One of them was the Lily drone, and that was a company that was coming up with this really cool drone that you could throw into the air. It would follow you. It was waterproof, all sorts of cool stuff, which has now been replicated by other drone manufacturers because Lily just couldn't get it together in time. Now the company is out of business. And then I got this note that they went Chapter 11, which is not good news for backers, because when companies go Chapter 11, everyone who is owed money has to get in line. And guess who's going to be at the end of the line? Us backers, the banks, the investment bankers, all the venture capital people. Those folks are going to get their money long before you will. So good luck. There's another $400 or $500 down the drain. And another one that went kaput this week was the Popslate. And this was actually a cool idea, which was taking a phone case, in this case an iPhone 6 case, and putting an e-ink display on the back of it so you could get information about whatever on your phone, always visible, and it wouldn't consume any power once the screen updated. It's a very similar concept to how the Kindles work. But unfortunately, it was not meant to be, because this week Popslate emailed all of their backers on Indiegogo and told us that the company is entering dissolution. You will not get your order. You will not get any refunds. And this is our final update. So see you later. And they ran off with the money, or they just blew all the money on something that couldn't get put together. I guess they had some issues with Apple's certification, and whatever it was, there is no product, and that is it. And I've been doing a lot of soul searching on crowdfunding, at least in the standpoint of should I put any more money into some of these crazy crowdfunding campaigns, because this has been a really bad year for crowdfunding. I've talked in the past, I'll put a link to a video that I did a couple of months ago about Kickstarter and the Zano drone. So there's been a bunch of stuff that I've backed as a channel, just because if something comes out that's really cool and I can get it early through one of these Kickstarter campaigns, it's a great thing to do a video on, because I'll get a lot of traffic on that product when it's still early in its life cycle. But it's becoming more like gambling, because half the time these products don't come out, or I'm waiting forever, or they go Chapter 11 and take my money. So I'm pretty much done, I think, with crowdfunding for a while. Another thing that's been happening too is I've been getting more and more PR pitches as the channel is growing from all of these crowdfunding people, like, hey, we want you to talk about our product. And I said, look, if you don't have a prototype that you can send to this channel that I can look at and review, I'm not going to talk about it, because I don't want to get people hyped up for these products that don't exist. Every night on Facebook, I'm scrolling through, there's these videos of all these crazy crowdfunding things that you can put your money into, but none of them actually exist. All this stuff is fake until it actually sits on this desk and I can review it. So I am not talking about crowdfunding stuff until there's a product that I can talk about. So if it's crowdfunded, but there's a product that they send me that I can show you is working, that I will consider. But beyond that, I'm not talking about these Kickstarters until they are in a point where I can say there is a working prototype and here it is, because I really don't want to steer people the wrong way and have them lose all their money. Another cool bit of news, though, this week that's more fun is that the Nintendo Switch has been torn down and x-rayed, and they discovered that the processor inside the Nintendo Switch is identical to that of the NVIDIA Shield TV. It's the Tegra X1 processor. In fact, it's the same processor. So a lot of you were wondering why they never updated the NVIDIA Shield tablet with that processor. That is why. They've been focused on working with Nintendo on the Switch, and that was probably a better business decision for them. But there's a website here called Tech Insights I'll link to, and you can check it out and see all the different chips inside the Nintendo Switch and what makes it tick. And I thought that was a rather interesting thing to see NVIDIA getting that X1 processor into a what's going to be, and probably already is, a very popular piece of consumer electronics. And now it's time for some viewer Q&A. We're going to start with a conversation that I was eavesdropping on the other day from a couple of viewers in the comment stream. Jimmy's Hammond is wondering, how can you afford to buy all this stuff? He only asks because he wants to be able to do the same. And Defume writes in and says, from my limited understanding, he has a day job. I used to. And G. Martin says, I just quit my day job, which I did. And he wanted to point out that I have a lot of Patreon supporters. And I just want to make one thing clear, because I brought this up earlier in the review. I am not using Patreon money to buy stuff here on the channel. I'm really careful about segmenting those dollars, because I feel like those are dollars that were invested in the growth of this channel versus just buying stuff. So what I'm going to be doing with the Patreon dollars is putting those monies towards hiring people to get more content put together and more production made here on the channel. But we have other revenue sources. We got money coming in from YouTube advertising, which is not the biggest revenue source anymore, unfortunately. Affiliate marketing does really well, so all those Amazon links, the links back to GearBest and other sites. Whenever I review something, I always try to have a affiliate link going back to them. Then, of course, we have the occasional sponsorships here on the channel. And what I decided to do before I made the plunge and went full time was I wanted to make sure there was a healthy amount of cash balance built up in the bank account for the channel before I quit, so that I would have some ability to continue this buying and reselling thing. And what's also helped is now that there's enough viewership that I can resell through the Lon.TV storefront. And that one does really well, because I only have to pay maybe 2.5% or so. It's 2.75% to Square versus like the 15 to 18% that you would get having to pay eBay or Amazon for selling on their platform. So it's really been working out quite well. I'm losing money on every sale, but I'm gaining it back through affiliate marketing links and just general revenue from YouTube viewership. But one of the things that I decided to do a couple of years ago was begin this process of buying and reselling, and it really worked out well. And I kind of focused on things that were a bit of a risk for me to take. In other words, buying 2 or 3 cheap computers for $200 or $300 each. But I knew I'd probably get most of that money back, and I was hoping that the viewership and affiliate revenue would make up the difference, and it sure did. In fact, it's kind of led to everything that the channel has become. It's paid for the TriCaster, it's paid for the renovation to the basement down here, and now there's a healthy cash reserve built up for at least my first year or two of operation now to continue that strategy of growth. And I also focused on cheap things because, first of all, there's less risk involved, but also because there's a lot more people who can afford to buy something inexpensive than can afford to buy something expensive. So that is typically why we don't look at the $2,000 or $3,000 laptops here on the channel very frequently, because it's too much risk for me to spend that much on a single item that I'll be reviewing, where I may not get as much viewership on it to begin with, because there's not as many people really looking for an in-depth review of something they may not be able to afford. So that's been kind of the track I've taken, and I think it's worked out really well for the channel, and it's working out great for those of you who are able to get in on those deals once they pop up on my store. So I'll continue doing that, and we'll see where it goes, and it's been working out really well so far. But that's really the process I've been taking with this, which is to really look at things that I think will do well as a review and go from there. And it's often difficult to work with a lot of these brands, because there's a million people like me asking them for loaner product all the time, and they can't keep up with it on the brand side. So for me, it's actually faster to just go out and buy the darn thing and review it. Like the Samsung Chromebook Plus that we reviewed the other day is a great example of that. I contacted Samsung to see if I could get a loaner. I got the, we'll note your interest response back from the PR company. Like, I'm never seeing one of these things. So I just went out and bought it, and thankfully one of you picked it back up again. So usually my limit is about $400 or $500 on that front. And I wanted to show you a related question here from Hak E. Jing about Lenovo. And Lenovo is one of the different ones who actually has a department that is focused on getting their product out to as many YouTube and other channels like mine as they can. So they've been really just throwing stuff at us on a loaner basis. I don't keep any of it, but it's been great because these are really well-searched items. There's a lot of these things out in the marketplace around the world, and I get a lot of traffic on Lenovo products, and that's been a great thing for the channel. I'm fair in how I review those things, but that's a company that really made the strategic decision to be able to develop a capacity to deal with all these content creators out there, whereas a lot of other companies are still working in the old model, where there's maybe a handful of magazines that they work with and a few TV shows perhaps, and they don't have to really do all that much outreach to get their products into the media. But things are changing, and there's a lot of people doing things like I'm doing, reviewing. But for me, if I can't get a response within a day or two and I really want to review the product and a lot of you are interested in me reviewing it, I just buy it and hope that one of you will buy it back from me when the review is done. I got a couple of questions this week about my review methodology and some things that I show on screen during my PC reviews. And Sid and Baton here are wondering why I look at showing NASA's website every time we do a PC review. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is I am a big fan of the space program. You will be seeing me doing more space content soon, probably later this year when there's a bunch of crazy stuff happening down in Florida with new rocket launches. So I'm going to probably go down and cover some of those things for you, whether you like it or not. I just love this stuff. But the other reason is that NASA's website is public domain. So everything that NASA publishes is entered into the public domain, and I can use legally here on the channel without having a fear of a copyright strike. And I've been very mindful now that I'm doing this full time of not doing anything that might tick off some corporation or YouTube's algorithm or whatever. So NASA is always a safe place to visit. Their website has all the latest JavaScript on it, so I think it's a very good test bed for looking at video and graphics and how fast everything renders on screen. So that's why I started using NASA a little bit more. I was using news sites before, and I was weary of that for a couple of reasons. One is the advertising that appears. Sometimes these videos start playing that might trigger the algorithm. There's also copyright concerns with these news sites being displayed on screen. But the other reason is that sometimes the headlines just are horrible, and I hate to just talk about it like it doesn't exist and there's some horrible headline on screen. So I figured NASA's like a safer bet to go with on a whole host of reasons, and it doesn't date the video as much. So if you are seeing headlines about things happening before the election and you're wondering whether or not this review is up to date, it dates it a lot quicker than it otherwise would. So that is part of my thinking on that. And Ryan Cavett was mentioning that I could make my Minecraft tests better on my mini PCs if I tweak some stuff with Optifine. But what I like to do is not tweak anything and just have it run default. And the reason is that I really want to see how one computer does versus the other. And I don't do a lot of comparatives just because I get rid of stuff before I have a chance to review them all together. But I do like to see just how things work when I go back and review footage from prior reviews. So I want to keep everything the same so that if one computer does something so much better than the other, I can say, hey, look how much better this one is than the one we looked at a couple of weeks ago. And it's really important, especially as we go through these generation changes on the chips. Because I've been doing this now 3 or 4 years. We've been through probably about 2 or 3 cycles of these low-cost PC chips, and we're seeing a real improvement there. So the only way to really get a good feel for that is to leave Minecraft as is in each of those iterations so we can see how much better it runs as time goes on. So that is why I do that with Minecraft. And I mentioned last week that I was still shooting at 1080i, and Ken Market wrote in and said, what's up with that, 1080i? Well, the reason is that I record live to disk with my TriCaster. So you see me always switching camera views like I'm doing right here. So right now, my little Mac here on the table is wired into the TriCaster, and it's just appearing up in the little box here, as you can see, automatically by this TriCaster, which means I don't have to edit it later, and I can hit my button here and switch back and forth, and it works great. The problem is that most consumer-grade cameras, I don't use expensive high-end studio cameras here, only output 1080i through their HDMI ports. Some do 1080p, but it's at 60 frames per second. My TriCaster doesn't support that. So I went out to B&H Photo and Video, where I buy a lot of the gear that I use here on the channel. And what I love about them is you can email in a question. If you ever go to their store, they're great too. But if you email in a question, a couple hours later, you get a response with an answer. And I said, hey, I need to output 1080p at 30 frames per second. Do you have a camera that does that? And they said, we sure do, this JVC one. So this is a JVC HM170U. It's not going to be the best camera in the world. I think it will be at least as good as what I have now, and it does do the 1080p 30 out its HDMI port, which is something that you're not going to find on a lot of cameras around this price range. So I bought 2 of these. They're $1,295 a piece, but this is one of those things. It's an investment in the channel, and the reason is that I need to go 30p just because I'm having a lot of issues de-interlacing video. A lot of times you're seeing something on the channel where you'll see some jagged lines in the background on those old computers back there and other things, and it's just not the way I want to be working. I want to be 30p from start to finish because I'm plugging things in all the time. If I forget to adjust the thing and something is getting re-interlaced and de-interlaced, it looks like crap on the final video, and it's been really frustrating. And then to make matters worse, Final Cut Pro had an update, and the way I used to export my video to get something that looked decent on YouTube changed, and I had to go to a different way of exporting to keep it from getting all jaggedy, and that takes like 3 times as long. So it's been really frustrating from start to finish. So hopefully in the next week we'll be getting these cameras up and running, and it will make life a little bit easier, and I'm going to bring in the lighting person and try to get all the lighting stuff adjusted also. But these were on sale. They had good promotion on them as far as getting an extra external microphone for it. I don't need that for here, but I might be able to use it as another field camera. It's got the XLR audio input. So all in, I'm pretty happy with my purchase. Hopefully, when I get them set up, they won't give me a lot of aggravation, and we can go from 30p from start to finish. But that's why I do that. A lot of other channels shoot at 60p because their cameras can do that. In fact, the cameras I have here can shoot at 60p, but it would take me so much longer to edit all of that after the fact, which is why I use the TriCaster. It just really speeds up my entire production workflow, which allows me as a single entity here to send as much stuff up to YouTube as I can. And my Q&A for you this week is about crowdfunding. Have you been screwed by a crowdfunding campaign? I sure have. I'd love to hear some of your war stories too. Leave them down below in the comment stream and let me know. And our channel of the week is one of my favorites called ReRez. And if you haven't checked him out, you should, because he does all sorts of cool gaming stuff. He looks at old stuff and reviews it in like a really great way. He's got a lot of great videos on newer stuff too, like the Nintendo Switch here. So just a great channel, so well produced. And I'm going to try to do something with Shane Lewis, who is the operator of that channel at some point. We'll do a little collaboration or something. But if you haven't checked out his channel, you should definitely look at it. He cranks out a lot of content, and it looks great, and it's got to take him forever to do it. So definitely give him a few views and help him out. Great channel, and one I highly recommend. So this week we've got a couple of things on my mind to do. We're going to review that Mission PC. I'm going to really put it through its paces tomorrow and see about getting a review up shortly thereafter. I'm going to have a sponsored video from Synology on their new operating system probably towards the end of the week, and I'll be doing something probably next week for backup day, and we'll do an epic backup video with the Synology NAS devices so you can see how all of that works. I got some other stuff coming up on the docket as well. And of course, you can support the channel by going to Lon.TV/Patreon for a monthly contribution to the channel, or you can do a one-time contribution at my tip jar at Lon.TV/tipjar on the store. We also have Plex set up with us, and if you sign up for a Plex account, just getting the free account, we get a small commission for that. So definitely, if you are looking into playing with Plex, which we've covered quite a bit here on the channel, check it out at the links there. You can give the gift of a Plex Pass for all the cool features that you want to use to somebody else at Lon.TV/PlexGift. Also, you can engage with the channel. Go to our extras channel at Lon.TV/extras for unboxings and all the other cool stuff. Lon.TV/email for my weekly email list. Facebook page is at Lon.TV/Facebook. And of course, you can buy some of the stuff I review here on the store at Lon.TV/store. And live streams, of course, will always be archived at Lon.TV/livestreams. I'm going to try to do one a week and eventually schedule them. But at this point, it's going to be when I feel like doing it. If I have it in my mindset to at least schedule it a few hours in advance, I'll do so. So definitely make sure to click on the notification icon on my channel so you always get notified when I do anything if you want to see me that often. So definitely do that to help out. And that's going to do it for this week's weekly wrap up. Please keep your questions, comments, and suggestions coming. They are always read and appreciated. So I want to thank you all for your continued support and viewership. And we're going to keep trucking away to week 3 full time as a content creator. This is Lon Seidman. Thanks for watching. This channel is brought to you by my Patreon supporters. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/S.